Welcome to the Counselor's Soapbox video channel. Today we begin a new series, Learning About Alcohol, Part 1. Knowledge about alcohol and alcoholism is important for anyone, whether you are a counselor or just a family member. Even among people with a drug addiction, abuse of alcohol is extremely common. It's important to keep in perspective the damage caused by the various drugs. These numbers are slightly out of date, but at the most recent ones I have available, we see that every year in America, nicotine is directly responsible for about 400,000 deaths. Alcohol accounts for about 100,000. At the time of this study, prescription opioids were responsible for a little over 9,000 deaths. That number, we know, has risen and is more than double that now. Many of the newer deaths from prescription opioids, this increase in their death rate, has not the result of drugs diverted from prescription sources, but the result of newer prescription opioids being smuggled into the United States or manufactured illegally. Cocaine, typically in 1 year, accounts for 6,000 deaths. It's important to note that most of the people who die from cocaine overdoses also have alcohol in the bloodstream. Other prescription drugs account for about 5,400 deaths a year, and other illegal drugs account for a little over 3,000 deaths a year. Of course, deaths directly related to a substance are not a total measure of all the harm that these drugs are causing to people. There's a difference in the way alcohol is treated from other drugs in our society. Drug users typically are sent to rehab, whereas alcoholics go to some kind of a driving school because they have gotten a driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated arrest. We encourage people in our society to drink more, but just not to get drunk, hence the ads for designated drivers. Programs for driving under the influence often teach people how to drink without getting arrested, whereas drug users are taught how to stop use altogether. Part of this is because alcohol is a culturally approved drug. It's included in many of our social activities. And one of the inferences here is that while with drugs there must be something dangerous about the drug, that with people who develop an alcohol issue there must be something wrong with problem drinkers. We need to consider why alcohol is treated so differently from other drugs in our society. Alcohol use has been a part of our history from the beginning. Most mammals produce enzymes to break down alcohol. Before refrigeration was common or available, people had to eat whatever they could, and often this would be fruit or berries that had fermented. The first human use that we're aware of probably goes back to the old Stone Age, between 50,000 and 10,000 BC. By 6,000 BC, recipe books existed for making wines. Most of these wines were from berries rather than grapes at that point. The Egyptians in ancient times had temples dedicated to the brewing of beer. Alcohol use in the New World depends on where you look. The Pilgrims report that they ran out of grog, and this is the reason that they landed on Plymouth Rock. Grog included rum and beer. Native populations in the United States, particularly in Mexico, were consuming pulque made from the fruit of a cactus plant somewhere around 200 AD. From 1790, right after the U.S. Civil War, until about 1830, the lead up to the Civil War, Americans were heavy drinkers, averaging about 5 standard drinks per person per day. And as a result of this, alcohol use has been interwoven in our human cultures as long as we have recorded history. People cite a number of reasons why they use alcohol. It's often used ritually during weddings or toasts. It is also used convivially as part of friendship and getting together. Many people include alcohol as a part of meals, and in some places it's a staple in the diet. Uh, it's also used for nutrition, and by the Middle Ages, alcohol was in use throughout Western civilization as part of birth, celebrating, and marriage, and even death. There are many other reasons that have been given for why people drink alcohol. It's been used in coronation of kings and to celebrate the election of presidents, installation of leaders, in treaties to celebrate the signing of them. Government functions often include alcohol. People report that they use it for fun. In fact, many people do not know how to have fun without including alcohol in their events. People report it relieves stress and they use it for that purpose, though using it to relieve stress can often result in ill effects. Some people use it for emotional regulation. When they're sad or depressed or angry, they drink more. This is probably the most dangerous way to do it. And alcohol is often used recreationally, where it is sold in taverns, bars, clubs, and so on. Alcohol has many medicinal uses. It's used as an anesthetic to kill germs on the skin. For a while, it was used as an anesthetic before we had modern anesthesiology. But the problem with that is that the amount needed to knock someone unconscious is very close to the amount that was fatal and would kill them. And alcohol has been included in salves, tonics, elixirs. For a while, it was given routinely to young children in soothing syrups. At that time, many of the soothing syrups also included morphine. These uses on children were banned in the 1920s. There are many alcohols, but only one is drinkable. Isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol and methyl alcohol, wood alcohol, are commonly available, but drinking those can cause serious damage to the body or even death. Ethanol or ethyl alcohol is what we mean when we refer to beverage alcohol. It's probably been used the longest of any drugs and is one of the most commonly used drugs on earth. The reasons people keep drinking are often very different from the reasons they start. Most people report that they began drinking because it seemed like fun and enjoyable and did positive things for them. Those people who continue to drink, and especially drink heavier and get into trouble with it, often cite that it's difficult to live without the alcohol. Alcohol has moved from their solution to problems to being their problem. Alcohol is produced by fermentation. Yeasts affect sugar, usually from fruits, berries, grains, and so on. The maximum normal alcohol content from fermentation is around 15%. Above that, the only way to make a stronger beverage is either to fortify the beverage, which is adding additional alcohol from another source, or distillation, in which a beer or wine or other alcoholic beverage is cooked, and then the steam is captured and cooled. That steam, since alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water, the steam, when cooled, has a higher alcohol content. Repeated distillation can increase the percentage of alcohol in the beverage. Alcohol content can be measured in two different ways. One is by percentage of alcohol. Milder beverages such as beer and wine are usually measured as percentage of alcohol in the beverage. There are two different ways to calculate this, by weight or by volume, but they produce very similar results. Stronger beverages are rated for their alcohol content on a scale of from 0 to 200. So it's called a proof scale. And in order to convert between them, if you take the percentage of alcohol and double it, a 20% beverage would be 40 proof, or if you take the proof, 86 proof, divided by 2 will produce 43% alcohol. It's interesting to note that alcohol strongly attracts water, and that in our environment on Earth, it is almost impossible to produce pure alcohol. If you had pure alcohol and poured it into a glass that was full to the top, as you stood there and watched it, the glass would begin to overflow as it pulled moisture out of the air. So the normal conditions on Earth, the strongest alcohol that can be made is 191 proof, which is about 95.5% alcohol. It's interesting to note in some places, here in California, the strongest beverage that's sold legally is 151. What's next in this series, Learning About Alcohol Part 2, we will talk about some of the problems with alcohol and some of the myths about alcohol. What's ahead? Over the next few months, we're going to look at a lot more information in the Learning About Alcohol series. There will also be some additional drug education videos and mental health and wellness videos. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button directly below. Comments are always appreciated. To receive new videos in this series, please subscribe. Thank you for watching the Counselor's Soapbox video channel. For more information on these topics, please visit the Counselorssoapbox.com blog, where you will find over 1,500 articles on mental health, substance abuse, and having a happy life. The David Joel Miller fiction and nonfiction books are available on Amazon. Photos here are courtesy of Pixabay and Wikimedia Commons and are all licensed under Creative Commons free for commercial use licenses. Thank you again for watching.